Tonight, on First at 9 this Sunday, the 12th of October 2025. Raising the bar. President guarantees land ownership and a 1,750 rupee daily wage for plantation workers. The Pearl under spotlight. Prime Minister in Beijing to attend global leaders meeting on women. World Health Organization chief arrives in Colombo for the WHO Regional Committee meeting. Unpaid dues. Colombo Municipal Council yet to recover over 4 billion rupees in outstanding assessment taxes, reveals the COPA. Trade tensions. China vows strong countermeasures if Trump imposes 100% tariffs. US trade war will not only impact Sri Lanka's exports, but also foreign direct investments, warns Indian economist Dr. Montek Singh Aluwalia.
Kalin baby soap rupial 90කට. Kalin baby podi හැමෝටමයි.
Homelands Expo 2025 Property Investment Forum and Exhibition. Join us on 11th October, Hilton, Colombo, from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Call 0710 111 444.
This is Derana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and welcome to Derana First at 9. I'm Aditya Drisingha joining you live with the latest in Sri Lanka and around the world. Brought to you by the only Sri Lankan media network to rise to the pinnacle across all media platforms, recognized as the best by every survey and beloved by the people. Now, in your top story tonight, President Lanka pledges to raise the daily wage of estate workers to 1,750 rupees within the year. Speaking at a ceremony held in Bandaraville today, the head of state also drew attention to the growing drug menace gripping society, affirming that the government is firmly committed to intensifying its efforts to combat substance abuse in the years ahead.
The ceremony to award title deeds of over 2,000 housing units to the Malaya Tamil community was held this morning in Bandaraville. The event was graced by President Lanka. The deeds were distributed under the fourth phase of a project aimed at distributing 10,000 housing units to those in need, implemented with Indian assistance.
Prior to
the presidential elections, NPP leader Anuradha Dissanayake made a historic statement at a rally called the Hatton Declaration. At that rally, the president pledged that the NPP-led government would bring long-awaited solutions to the long-standing challenges faced by the Malaya Tamil community. Under the first phase of this initiative, launched with the support of the Indian government, 1,300 houses were granted to members of the community last year. Building upon that success, this year we aim to distribute 2,056 houses, the largest number of residences ever allocated to the public in the history of our country. Each homeowner will receive a plot of land measuring 10 perches. I still recall the tragic landslide that struck the media at the estate in 2014, claiming 36 innocent lives. More recently, in 2023, another devastating landslide buried 23 line rooms in the Kabaragala division of the Poonagala estate, leaving at least 50 families homeless. Today, those families continue to live in an abandoned tea factory. To address this issue, the government is constructing 50 new houses in Habaragala, and I am pleased to inform you that the project is now in its final stages of completion.
The Malaya Tamil community has long been an indispensable force in propelling our nation's economy forward. Yet, for over 2 centuries, they have endured hardship and marginalization. It is therefore the duty of any responsible government to ensure that they are granted rightful ownership of the lands they have cultivated for generations. We are actively implementing measures to make this aspiration a tangible reality. Their call for a daily wage of 1,750 rupees is both just and long overdue. I assure you that this demand will be fulfilled within the year. We are also acutely aware of the dangers posed by contaminated water and the health risks it brings. In the years ahead, the government will place a strong emphasis on water purification and accessibility projects, and a substantial allocation from next year's budget will be directed towards achieving this goal. Another grave concern confronting our society today is the rising tide of drug addiction among youth. This is not a challenge the government can overcome alone. It demands the collective support of the people. Despite the measures already underway, we have discovered that the issue runs far deeper than it first appeared. Certain politicians maintain close ties to the narcotics network of the country. We now stand at a crossroads. We can either turn a blind eye or confront this menace head on. The choice is clear. Let us all unite to ensure that every action we take as a government moves forward. Fraud and corruption are the two main pillars driving the country towards poverty. Their presence is felt across every level of governance, from the highest ranks to the grassroots. This must come to an end. We have already launched several initiatives to tackle these ills, and I reaffirm our unwavering commitment to persevere in this fight in the years to come.
හොඳම ෆෝන් එකක් ගන්න. ළඟම අපාන්ස් එකට යන්න.
The World Education Fair 2025 entrance free. Register now.
Meanwhile, levelling some concerning allegations, the Ceylon Workers' Congress claims that documents presented by the president to the Malaya Tamil community are not authentic title deeds but a pledge to grant them in the future. Deputy Chairman of the Congress, Ganapathy Kanagaraj, questioned whether the community would truly receive ownership of the lands, since future administrations are not obligated to honour the pledges.
Pieces of paper has been distributed which were portrayed as deeds of lands for estate workers. We have requested the deeds for the approved land under the Land Reform Commission. A cabinet decision has been taken to provide 10 purchase of land to each family residing in the estates. Accordingly, 4 billion rupees were allocated for this purpose and some lands were granted. The current government has also promised to provide the same extent of land and has issued a temporary document promising that deeds would be issued in the future. However, that promise is not binding for future governments. If deeds can only be issued to 500 beneficiaries at this stage, then it is essential that at least those 500 receive official LRC deeds. We cannot stand by and allow these people to be misled any further.
Secretary to the Ministry of Plantation and Community Infrastructure, Prabhat Chandrakirti, commented on the matter.
ඉන්දියානු නිවාස ව්‍යාපෘතියේ තියෙනවනේ ගෙවල් 10000ක් 4700ක මූලික කටයුතු අපි මේ අවුරුද්දේ ආරම්භ කරා. ඒකෙන් අධි අවදානම් නායාම් කලාපවල ඉන්න 2056ක් තෝරගෙන. ඒක ජාතික ගොඩනැගිලි පරීක්ෂණ ආයතනයේ නිර්දේශ මත තමයි මේ 2056 තෝරගත්තේ. ඒ අයට ඉදිරියේදී නිවසක් සමග ඉඩමක් ලැබෙන බවට හිමිකම් පත්‍රයක් තමයි දුන්නේ අත. මේ අතරේ අපි LRC ඔප්පු 20කට වගේ ප්‍රමාණයකට ඔප්පු දුන්නා. තව 200 ගාණක් ඉන්න ඔප්පු දෙන්න ඒක අපි වෙනමම කරනවා. මොකද ඒක අපේ වැඩසටහන මේක ඉන්දියානු රජයේ වැඩසටහන.
Prime Minister Dr. Harnio Amarasuriya arrived in Beijing today for an official visit to attend the Global Leaders Meeting on Women 2025 at the invitation of the Chinese government. She was received by Cao Shumin, Minister of National Radio and Television Administration, upon arrival. During a visit, the Prime Minister will deliver an address at the summit and hold key bilateral talks with Chinese President Xi Jinping and Premier Li Qiang. The visit continues until October 15th with a focus on strengthening ties and promoting gender equality. Now, meanwhile, Dr. Tedros Ghebreyesus, the Director General of the World Health Organization, touched down at the Bandaranaike International Airport this morning to attend the 78th session of the WHO Regional Committee as its chief guest. Dr. Ghebreyesus was received by Secretary to the Ministry of Health and Mass Media, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, at the airport's VIP lounge. The 78th session of the World Health Organization Regional Committee is scheduled to take place from October 13th to 15th in Colombo. The meeting will bring together health ministers and delegates from across the Southeast Asia region to discuss key public health priorities and regional cooperation.
The Ministry of Defense had previously said that their operation had finished at midnight yesterday. The Taliban administration's spokesman today stated that their fighters had...
Now, the Committee on Public Accounts dropped another bombshell revealing that the Colombo Municipal Council is yet to recover over 4 billion rupees in outstanding assessment taxes, with 610 million rupees owed from the 4th Division alone. Speaking at the committee, Colombo Mayor Rai Kalibartasa acknowledged systemic inefficiencies and revealed that the council has initiated a review of its existing systems, including the establishment of new standing committees.
ගිය පාර පෙබරවාරි මාසේ
According to the recommendations made on February 25th, 610 million rupees in assessment taxes were still to be collected from the 4th Division alone. The Municipal Council agreed to expedite the collection of the outstanding amount in that division within a month. However, by June, only 53 million rupees had been collected. We are not certain whether that figure has changed since then. Issues grappling the collection process could be a reason impeding success in this regard. Furthermore, the sum total of unpaid assessment fees stands at a whopping 4 billion rupees across all 47 divisions. We require you to conduct a comprehensive program to address these issues. What progress have you made on this front?
ඒක හදලා තියෙනවද නැද්ද කියන එක.
කොටුවේ අපට මිලියන 610ක් තිබ්බා. ටෝටල් එක කොටුවේ මිලියන 148ක් එකතු කරලා තියෙනවා.
මිලියන 148ක් කියන්නේ මේ
කොටුවේ
මේ වෙනකොටද?
ඔව් මේ වෙනකොට.
මේ වසරේ අපි
ඔව්
9යි මේ අවුරුද්දට.
එතකොට
මේ හිඟය
Can we recover the remaining 462 million rupees due? Or is this simply a financial report depicting the maximum amount we can collect to mitigate further losses?
සංඛ්‍යා වාර්තාවක්ද මේ තියෙන්නේ? නෑ මේවා අය කරගන්න පුළුවන් දේවල් මේ 266 තුල තියෙන.
No, these amounts can be recovered. Out of the total deficit, government institutions have not paid assessment taxes worth 266 million rupees. The Urban Development Authority alone owes 220 million rupees. There is a list of similar government institutions including the police department. The 266 million due can be broken down to an institution specific list as such.
රජය 266 බ්‍රේක් ඩවුන් වෙනවා.
මෙතන තියෙනවා මම කලින් කිව්වා වගේ සිස්ටම් වල තියෙන ගැටලු ටිකක්. එතකොට
As I mentioned previously, there are systematic issues at place here. Therefore, we had to review the systems in place. The Colombo Municipal Council has a network of standing committees. Recently, we set up a new standing committee to oversee digitalization. Through that standing committee, we have initiated a separate discussion on taxation. Furthermore, we have commenced reviewing existing systems. These systems have to be revised.
කියන අදහසින්.
Minister of Trade, Commerce, Food Security and Cooperative Development Vasantha Samarasinghe disparaged large-scale rice millers for running a mafia within the local rice market. The minister further claims that the government will not be deterred by attempts to impede government's efforts geared at eradicating market irregularities. We purchased 50,000 metric tons of paddy this Yalla season. Our intention is to grind the paddy and offer the rice to Lanka Satosa for sale. Since we require services of rice millers to grind the paddy, we called for tenders, expecting to pick the lowest bidder. Several large-scale rice mill owners who evaded government agents with SJB support in the past claimed that they would grind the stock of paddy with an outturn between 65% to 68%. We informed those large-scale millers that we will offer 20,000 metric tons of paddy to mills operating at a much smaller scale. To do so, we request them to first turn their stocks of paddy to rice and offer it to us. The Paddy Marketing Board and Lanka Satosa will offer Nadu paddy at a rate of 125 rupees per kilo. However, they claim that when the stock is offloaded in Colombo, a kilo of Nadu rice will be priced at 224 rupees. Then we will have to sell that particular consignment of Nadu rice at a retail price of 230 rupees. Kakulu rice will have to be sold at 213 rupees, 214 rupees or 217 rupees. Our admin and transport overheads will run us more than 6 rupees. In the end, we will not generate a profit. Satosa runs a business, not welfare. Large-scale millers are operating a mafia within the domestic market. Now the government has entered the market to combat this rice mafia. We will not allow anybody to impede the government's efforts at eradicating this mafia.
Meanwhile, the Polonnaruwa District Rice Producers Cooperative Association claims that they are ready to support the government combat an impending shortage of rice.
I
don't think anyone can churn out 65 kilos of rice out of 100 kilos of paddy. Even if you consult large-scale millers, they too will tell you that it is impossible. However, we can operate at an outturn of 63%. We expect the government to trigger operations within all 1,500 mills spread across Sri Lanka. The current market price of paddy is an important factor that farmers take into account in determining how they cultivate paddy the next season. Since Kirisamba prices were high this season, we expect more Kirisamba to be harvested the next season. Consequently, Nadu rice will be in short supply next season. This is the issue that the government must address. This persistent shortage has led the government to import rice. However, we urge the government to not import rice. While implementing programs to yield bigger harvests, we hope the the government will engage in efforts to strengthen rural businesses.
ගමේ ව්‍යාපාරිකයන් නගා සිටුවන්න අවශ්‍ය කටයුතු කරයි කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
Meanwhile, leader of Sarvajana Balaya, parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira claims that theatrics of anti-corruption will never alleviate poverty in Sri Lanka. Speaking at a gathering in Rakwana today, Jayavira emphasizes that even though a few individuals have been nabbed over corruption charges, not a dime of confiscated wealth has been credited to state coffers.
Rakwana Division's Sarvajana Sabha was set up today under the patronage of Sarvajana Balaya leader, parliamentarian Dilith Jayavira.
We had only 2 meals a day, saving up money to fund our children's education. Our parents and our grandparents before them did the same in the past. Now the same problem has been passed down to our children, with future generations too being threatened with the same. Don't you not want this issue to be resolved? Nothing is being done to generate revenues. Despite more money being funneled in, our standards have not improved. The fundamental issue behind that reality is the lack of entrepreneurial acumen within our past leaders. The only remedy to our current issues is the generation of wealth. Many who chose the NPP at the polls expected their lives to change when the corrupt are thrown behind bars. The corrupt must be nabbed. They can't be allowed to run amok. We will never condone corruption. However, the theatrics of anti-corruption will never alleviate poverty in Sri Lanka. Although a few have been nabbed over corruption charges, not a dime of confiscated wealth has been credited to state coffers. While the government incarcerated people over corruption, they impose more taxes on the public. How can they call themselves a government of the proletariat when they hike prices of groceries? How many youngsters in villages such as these toiled hard to ensure an NPP victory? Is this what they yearn for? Minister K.D. Lanka recently claimed in Parliament that farmers have stopped protesting. He claims that all woes ailing farmers have been resolved and assured them that there is no reason to take to the street. Is that the ground reality? Onion farmers have urged desperately for help. In the past, the incumbent government collected donations from various organizations overseas to fund protest. However, farmers today have to spend their own money to protest. No NGO will help them. Embassies won't pay them either. The worms who walk for the legumes are the ones who are doing this.
Opposition leader Sajith Premadasa claims that the current government does not have the mandate to remove the Minister of Buddhist Affairs simply because it holds 159 seats in Parliament. He made these remarks addressing the public in Agalavatta.
Another event under the opposition leader's mobile service initiative took place today in the Palindunuwara area of Agalavatta with opposition leader Sajith Premadasa in attendance.
Look at the destruction that has occurred in this country. Despite Buddhism holding a special place in the constitution, we have lost the Ministry of Buddhist Affairs. It has been removed. Additionally, the respect that other religions had along with the state ministries for other religions have also been dismantled. What is the issue here? Sri Lanka is not an atheistic nation. Who vested the mandate to remove the Minister of Buddhist Affairs? Can they do this simply because they hold 159 seats in Parliament? Was this decision made to make room for distorted ideas? We must begin to restore the system that we had in place earlier.
Now, a possible unification between the two stalwart parties of Sri Lanka's right, the UNP and the SJB, claimed the spotlight of political attention today.
Our party has been in politics for 79 years. There may have been times when we were weak, but we always got back up. No other party has served this country as long or as much as we have. We are committed to making this party a successful one once again. We are ready to join forces with all political forces.
We can confidently say that right-wing political parties are coming together. The UNP and SJB, which share similar policies, are merging. With news of these parties uniting, there's a renewed sense of hope among the people of the country. To bring this country towards prosperity, parties with talent, strength, knowledge and experience, and above all, those free of corruption and respected by the people must unite. Then the people of this country will ask the political leaders, how should they unite? Who should come together and for what purpose? When such questions are asked, we must be ready with the answers.
අපි සූදානව සිටිය යුතුයි.
අල්ලස් කොමිසමෙන් අපරාපක්ෂ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවෙන්
As Bribery Commission and the Criminal Investigation Department impose the law, all these parties band together and rightfully so. The SLPP and the SLFP might also unite. That is what we expect. I see it to be a positive development. Their intention is to disrupt the government's current agenda together.
වැඩපිළිවෙල කඩාකප්පල් කරගත ඒකලයි බලාපොරොත්තු.
සජිත් මහත්තයා තමයි වැඩිපුර
Sajid Premadasa garners the support of the highest number of voters and the MPs. We won't go to the UNP and they won't come to us either. We will not abandon the SJB to join the UNP, nor will those with the UNP abandon it to join the SJB. The two parties will form an alliance someday.
කවදාරි සන්ධානයක් හදයි.
Kabir Hashim මන්ත්‍රීතුමාගේ
A committee headed by Kabir Hashim has been appointed to prepare a plan on how the SJB can leverage its position as the main opposition party to collaborate and work with the United National Party. The plan will be handed over to the party on Monday.
පක්ෂයට බාර දෙන්න තීරණය කරා.
එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ
I have always been of the opinion that the UNP and the SJB must unite. An alliance as such will be beneficial for them. However, I am also cognizant of the fact that the decision is up for them to take, since the parties are theirs, not mine. Looking at it as a third party, I see an alliance between them to be a positive development.
මට එළියෙන් දකිනකොට හිතනවා එයා එකතු වුණොත් හොඳයි කියලා.
The Mount Lavinia magistrate has authorized police to obtain CCTV footage of the alleged assault of an attorney by a police constable at the court premises and the subsequent confrontation as evidence in an ongoing investigation into the incident. The senior counsel who was seen confronting the constable in question is being investigated for possible criminal obstruction of duty.
On October 10th, a police constable accused of assaulting an attorney at the Mount Lavinia Magistrates Court was arrested and remanded until tomorrow. Footage circulated on social media showing a senior counsel verbally reprimanding the constable in question. The Mount Lavinia Headquarters Police Station has launched an investigation against the senior counsel for possible criminal obstruction of duty. Police said a CD containing footage of the incident has been obtained as evidence, with statements also being recorded from several individuals in the immediate vicinity. Mount Lavinia Magistrate Hemali Pandaniya also authorized police to obtain CCTV footage of the incident as evidence in the investigation.
The case will be recalled tomorrow. The Attorney General will intervene in the matter. Future legal action will be taken by the Attorney General's department. If the officer has been subjected to an injustice, relevant interventions will be made. I am disappointed by the conduct of the attorney involved in the incident. We consider his undignified behavior to be contempt of court. Action will be taken against the attorney who obstructed duty and disrespected court. No one is above the law.
Welcome back. Now in your business news, Deputy Minister of Tourism Professor Ruwan Ranasinghe says recognizing women's leadership is not only an appreciation of their contributions to society and the economy, but an inspiration to future generations to raise the bar in their respective fields, which is crucial for Sri Lanka to overcome impending challenges. He made this comment at the Top 50 Professional and Career Women Global Award ceremony held recently in Colombo. Joining the same event, former President Ranil Wickremesinghe emphasized that Sri Lanka must change its economic approach to access the benefits of the rapidly changing world order, drawing attention to the important role of women leaders in bringing about this transformation.
The 15th Top 50 Professional and Career Women Global Award ceremony, organized by Women in Management, was held recently in Colombo, recognizing 50 of the most inspiring career, business and social women leaders from 14 countries, including Sri Lanka.
We have empowered more than 100,000 women in 9 provinces, creating opportunities for growth, leadership, independence and entrepreneurship. During the COVID, I realized with the economic crisis, children were dropping out of school. So I started the Wim Free Kitchen. To date, we feed 150 school children. We are not a charity organization. We don't market charity. We market women leadership. Sri Lanka is not poor. Sri Lanka is rich. We are very scared to dream. What Sri Lanka doesn't understand is women are the market people who bring economy. Women decides market.
A new world is coming together. Potential for growth is in the Indian Ocean. We all want what Singapore has. We are not willing to take the challenge and make the change. We have to change the economy. Everyone talks of the Indian Ocean, that we are going to be important, yes. But we must know how we work together. By 2050, of the 4 great economies in the world, one will be US. Other is China, India, Indonesia. We must also as a country change. And as we change, certainly see more and more women take. So let's all go together and build that new country.
Foreign remittance, textile, tea plantations, majority females. The economy, key pillars run by women. It is not easy in a society like Sri Lanka for a female to rise up. We have a country which is in the face of immense challenges. To succeed, we need to raise the bar, whatever the field be. So recognizing the performance, leadership of women is not just a gratitude, but it is an encouragement for them to transfer that down to the next generation. Let's create that powerful, inspirational and motivated next generation.
Our 23-member U.S. delegation comprising senior representatives from leading American think tanks and private sector enterprises paid a courtesy call on the chairman of Sri Lanka's Board of Investment, Arjuna Herath. According to the statement from the Board of Investment, the delegation included prominent members from the Hudson Institute, the American Enterprise Institute, and executives representing technology and human capital development sectors. Discussions centered on strengthening economic ties, expanding investment opportunities, and Sri Lanka's strategic role as a rapidly evolving geopolitical landscape. On geopolitical matters, Sri Lankan officials reaffirmed the country's long-standing non-aligned foreign policy, maintaining constructive relations with all major powers while safeguarding national interests. The U.S. delegation emphasized that these discussions are pivotal in shaping the future landscape of various industries and aligning resources and expertise for mutual growth. Now, economist and former Indian civil servant Dr. Montek Singh Ahluwalia claims that the reciprocal tariffs implemented by the United States not only impacts the exports of developing countries such as Sri Lanka, but also hinders the attraction of foreign direct investments due to uncertainties they create in global trade. Speaking at an event organized by the Central Bank of Sri Lanka, he also commented on Sri Lanka's ongoing program with the International Monetary Fund.
Sri Lanka faces exceptionally difficult circumstances because we all face difficult circumstances. Now, regrettably, Sri Lanka doesn't just have to fix itself. Sri Lanka also has to face a world which is much, much more difficult than it ever has been in the past for all of us. There seems to be a policy turnaround in the global economy where the earlier commitment by the leading economies to maintain an open world trading system with no resort to protectionism, that has clearly weakened. Trump administration, they somehow have come to the conclusion that the whole world is discriminating against the US, and that this discriminatory action needs to be countered. But if you do a composite calculation of goods and services, it's almost balanced. So there's no logic in sort of looking at goods and not looking at services. But that's neither here nor there. That's what the US has done. And I think most countries have allowed the US to do it simply because it's a very important partner. They're just trying to negotiate their way out of it, which I think is actually sensible. And therefore, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's going to happen to world trade. Quite clear that world trade will be adversely affected. How much it will be adversely affected is at the moment uncertain. So this is relevant for Sri Lanka also, because I don't think Sri Lanka has been hit by exceptionally negative action directed at Sri Lanka. But to the extent to which all this action leads to a slower growth rate of world trade, clearly Sri Lanka will be affected in the sense that either exports will be less than they otherwise would be, or we'll have to see. And that's an issue. This is a cause of a huge amount of uncertainty. It's also uncertainty that affects investment flows. So countries that are trying to attract investment flows will be wondering if somebody is going to invest in a developing country because they expect that that country can be a base for exporting to the rest of the world. The uncertainty in American policy will make all these people a little bit uncertain about whether they should proceed or wait until the position is much clearer.
I just want to know what's your stance whether we should be continuing with the IMF plan after 2 years when the term ends?
So if Sri Lanka is able to say, look, we've restored confidence in Sri Lanka, thank you very much for all the assistance you gave. We are not going to take the next few drawings. If the interruption is on that basis, then you should certainly do it. It's never, I think, a particularly useful thing to interrupt a program except from a position of strength. If it's interrupted in a manner in which the IMF itself feels quite happy that they helped Sri Lanka at a critical point, they're very happy that Sri Lanka doesn't need IMF help, that's good, that's great. But at the same time, doing it prematurely doesn't help.
On the subject of reciprocal tariffs, China has warned of strong retaliation if Donald Trump imposes 100% tariffs on Chinese imports. The threat follows Beijing's new export restrictions on rare earth minerals. Rising tensions now endanger global supply chains and trade talks.
Beijing has warned it will take strong countermeasures if US President Donald Trump follows through on his threat to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese imports. The threat comes just days after China introduced sweeping export restrictions on rare earth minerals, critical components in electronics, semiconductors and military hardware. In its first official response, China's Ministry of Commerce criticized Trump's stance, asserting that threats of high tariffs is not the right way to engage with China. The ministry emphasized that while China does not seek a trade war, it is not afraid of one and will act decisively to defend its interests. The escalating tensions have roiled global markets, renewing fears of a repeat of the tariff war earlier this year, when levies reached 145% on Chinese goods and 120% on US exports. The latest rift also marks doubt on a planned meeting between US President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping in South Korea later this month. China defended its new restrictions on rare earth exports, including limits on mineral processing and overseas use, as legitimate, and accused the US of provoking the conflict by imposing new controls and backlisting Chinese firms following trade talks in Madrid last month. China's Commerce Ministry accused the US of applying double standards and abusing the concept of national security to restrict trade. The developments marked a sharp escalation in the tech and trade standoff between the world's two largest economies, threatening supply chains and putting the fragile progress in ongoing trade negotiations at serious risk.
Welcome back now in your world news. US President Donald Trump and Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi will co-chair a major peace summit tomorrow in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, alongside leaders from over 20 nations. The summit aims to solidify a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas, boost aid to Gaza and push for lasting peace in the region. Attendees include UN Chief Antonio Guterres, UK's Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer, French President Emmanuel Macron, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni and Spanish President Pedro Sanchez. Israel's Benjamin Netanyahu and Hamas will not participate. The ceasefire follows intense negotiations mediated by Egypt, Qatar, Turkey and US envoys. Pakistan closed border crossings with Afghanistan today following exchanges of fire between forces of the two countries. Afghan troops opened fire on the Pakistani border posts late yesterday, with the country's Ministry of Defense saying this was retaliation for Pakistani airstrikes in Afghanistan earlier in the week.
The exchange of fire was mostly over by this morning, but in Pakistan's Kuram area, intermittent gunfire continued. Pakistan's two main border crossings with Afghanistan at Torkham and Chaman, and at least 3 minor crossings at Karachi, Angur Ada and Ghulam Khan were closed today. There was no immediate comment from Kabul on the closing of the border. Afghanistan's Ministry of Defense had previously said that their operation had finished at midnight yesterday. The Taliban administration spokesman today stated that there was no kind of threat in any part of Afghanistan's territory. The Taliban spokesman said that 58 Pakistani military personnel died and around 30 others had been wounded. He added that 9 Taliban fighters had died and between 16 and 18 people had been injured. Landlocked Afghanistan has a 2,600-kilometer long border with Pakistan. Islamabad accuses the Taliban administration of harboring militants who attack Pakistan, a charge that Kabul denies. Pakistani airstrikes, not officially acknowledged by Islamabad, had targeted the leader of Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan militant group in Kabul on Thursday. It is unclear if he survived. The TTP has been fighting to overthrow the Islamabad government and replace it with a strict Islamic-led system of governance. It has had a close relationship with the Afghan Taliban.
That's all the news we have for you tonight. Thank you. Have a great night.